Yeah, hello guys, Cloudie here, checking in with a new video regarding King's Raid. In this one, we are gonna talk about the feedback that was provided by Masangsoft regarding our feedback to the first closed beta test, also their upcoming second beta test, and the direction and stances they are taking regarding the game. So that's what we are gonna talk about. Now, this was all shared on like 4 different channels on their Discord, so it's a bit confusing and difficult to keep track of, but I'll try to cover everything and then we will see where we are at. So let's start with the feedback regarding the first closed beta test right away. Of course, they usually start with the usual, we are sorry to have done this and we apologize that it wasn't the way we wanted to. Basically, they explain that they wanted to push the beta test out ahead of time, and so not enough systems and content was included, and that's why it felt a little bit small or limited. And they also say that they are sorry that they didn't communicate enough with us, which is basically what we have heard in King's Raid before, so that's nothing new. Now, question 2, so the stamina restriction, they say, made it feel like gameplay was being blocked. Why was it set up this way? Now, this is a curious one. Did you guys who played the beta test feel that it was limited in stamina? Because I recall we had like 3000 stamina, and honestly, I had the game running for hours, grinding on auto, and I didn't feel that this was a limit really, but they say here that basically they wanted the daily progression loop to not be too excessive, not to have excessive gaps between heavy users and more casual players. But then they also add that, well, not all the systems about purchasing additional stamina have been added yet. So meh, I don't know. I didn't really feel restricted in stamina at all. Also, when we get back to their future plans and their closed beta test plans, we will see that we may not even need that much stamina in the future. So I don't know. This question seems a bit moot to me, to be honest. Let's see. Characters cannot be purchased directly from the shop, and there are too few characters available early on. So the game is starting, or both in the closed beta test and the live version will be starting in a very limited form. Basically up to chapter 6 and maybe some world boss and other content being added, and we are receiving 31 heroes. Now, the original King's Raid also started with a very limited number of heroes and then went up to like 100 plus. And now I'm thinking, what other games have like 100 heroes to begin with, other than today's video sponsor, Raid Chat? I'm just kidding, guys. But anyway, so 100 heroes is a lot, but that was added to King's Raid over years. And since we aren't starting with the full package, I can understand also, since they are rebalancing the whole game, that's like, whatever. We will get back to the list of which heroes we are starting with later on, and it does seem a bit limited. We can't really start out with basically any of the later on powerhouse heroes that we had, which might mean that it feels a bit moot to start investing in them in the beginning. But yeah, we will see how that goes. Anyway, they say that this was mostly about testing the systems, and then they will adjust things. We will get back to this point later on because they write more about this at some point. Also, sorry about the fidgeting on my screen. My mouse scroll button is like acting up, so I'm just like scrolling without the wheel, which sucks. So auto battle feels less comfortable than before, and the game seems to strongly favor manual control. The balance also feels very different. Now, this is true. They have changed a lot of um, the balance of the game. A lot of heroes were changed. We will get back again to this. We will get back to later on because they have like a more detailed explanation later on. But they say that they want more, that they are developing more ways to have a smoother autoplay, and then we will see this in the next closed beta test. So yeah, okay, again, we will get back to this later on. There wasn't enough content in the CBT, so there wasn't much to test. Yeah, we already know this. They really wanted to just see how it will go. Okay, so this is basically what they say. We take photo responsibly, yada 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 yada. Let's go down to the the second post that was done more recently, which is, of course, something that a lot of you guys have been asking for. When is the game going to be released? They said that originally they planned to do this into 2025, but obviously that didn't happen. So now they are planning to have an official launch within 2026. So this year. Now this is surprising because based on how the game was in the current closed beta test or the previous one, I don't see it anywhere nearly launch ready. But who knows? Maybe towards the end of the year they can push this out um, to a reasonable level. And they say that for the upcoming second CVT, they are adding a lot more content. Yeah, we will see this later on when we get there. Again, my mouse is being weird. Let's scroll down. Updates about development seem to appear only about once a month. Yeah, so they want to communicate more frequently, but they couldn't do it last at least so well, and so they're gonna do it better. Okay, that's like whatever. Okay, so what is the core philosophy behind hero balance adjustments? So they say that they have like two things here. They want to make it so that no hero becomes obsolete, preserving each hero's strategic value within the game. Yeah, I mean, that's really hard with 100 heroes, even with 30 heroes when they share like similar roles. Um, so they say we want to respect the time and effort players have invested into developing their heroes, but it's kind of how gacha games works. That newer stuff comes out that outshine the previous things. Otherwise, you would just stick with your first built hero. Okay, so they say rather than focusing purely on damage output comparisons, we are designing heroes so that their unique mechanics such as debuffs, crowd control, and elemental synergies can provide clear advantages in specific combat situations. Alright, well, this is how endgame worked in King's Raid, where especially with like the challenge raids, you sometimes needed some heroes that you basically never used before because you needed their specific skills to just not die. So yeah, okay, I guess we will see how this will work. We are also refining skill uptime and functionality based on each hero's core role. This allows us to support both heroes built around burst skills, which deliver explosive impact during critical moments and emergencies, yada yada, and heroes centered on sustained skills that provide consistent influence. Okay, whatever they might mean with that. We aim to add greater depth to overall combat design. So basically, this might mean that not all boss battles or not all fights will be centered around burst windows as they are now. So who knows, that might actually be an interesting change for the future. We'll see how that turns out. Okay, and here comes the source. So at the same time, effects that could severely disrupt balance, such as complete status immunity or full defense penetration, are being approached with particular caution. We have seen this in the closed beta test where we did not have immunity, like Fere Shield didn't give immunity, and Epis, for instance, didn't have armor penetration or ignore armor skills. I do understand that for balance reasons, this might make sense, especially like ignore defense skills can be pretty brutal. At the same time, a lot of the content in King's Raid was designed around immunity effects statuses. So if you can't have like, let's imagine, say, World Boss 1, where the randomly falling rocks would interrupt your characters if you didn't have any kind of immunity. And if you can't have like immunity to those effects, then how are you gonna do that content? Is this gonna mean that they are gonna rebalance the entire game around this kind of philosophy? Because, well, let's imagine that you're just knocking down world boss and something interrupts your main damage dealer. That run is now finished and you have to restart. That's a lot of frustration. Or even if it's not just your damage dealer, but some of your important buffs are not coming up because again a random effect was interrupting your auto team. Then how is that gonna work? I don't know. They say overall combat balance is being adjusted accordingly. All right, well, we'll see. At the moment, I don't see how this is going to work, but let them cook and we will see. Uh, Careful adjustments. We do not intend to rely solely on internal metrics such as win rates or pick rates. In addition, to data. We are closely reviewing the actual gameplay experience reported by players, yada yada. So they see that if players aren't using characters much, then they will adjust things accordingly, and they will see how much people pick these and use these, and also listen to feedback. All right. Rebalancing early acquisition heroes. So they say that some of the early game heroes were a bit nerfed, basically, due to them being worried about them becoming too strong in the end game. So the examples are Close and Frey, and they gonna change Close to, instead of giving physical defense to all allies, in giving more physical defense, but only to 4 allies with the lowest defense. Um, Frey, whose shield had a 50% uptime to all allies, now having a 100% uptime to the 4 allies with the highest damage dealt. Again, that's kind of weird because what's gonna happen then to the other Frey? Not gonna say her full name now, and what's gonna happen to your other team members if you are having, for instance, an eight man raid, like one of the dragon raids or whatever? Then how are your other characters going to survive? Do you just have to build them like tanks? And what if they even then can't survive? Because King's Raid has always been about very high damage numbers, both going out and coming in. So, I don't know. So they say that, okay, they have improved these heroes through these changes. And yeah, again, I don't know this yet. We have to see how these work out in actual content. It's a pretty big change compared to the previous game. So, we'll see. With the changes to the hero acquisition system, it feels harder to obtain the heroes we want. Will it still be possible to purchase heroes directly with rubies like before? So I don't know, correct me on this. I'm getting old, so my memory doesn't serve me that well. But back in the day when the game started, we mostly got our heroes from the inn. I'm not even sure, were you always able to buy all heroes from the inn? I think you could buy new released ones, but were you able to just buy everyone? I don't remember anymore. So, yeah, okay, but they say that the inn is designed for a place when you don't just get the heroes, but you can interact with them a little. And this is something they have mentioned, or we had in the previous game too. Um, they do say that if a hero visits the inn, that you will be able to purchase them immediately using rubies, and at the same time you can also recruit them by investing time and interaction. Now in the previous game it took like around 20 days, I believe, to recruit the hero, and now you can actually log them into the inn and you have other ones visiting at the same time, so it shouldn't be that difficult to go up with the number of heroes you own. It takes some patience. I'm not super worried about this at the moment. We'll see how it turns out. Um, they say our goal with this system is to create a more free-to-play friendly experience, allowing players to recruit heroes without feeling pressure to spend, while encouraging stronger connections with each hero. All right, I mean, I did like the conversations with the heroes. Some of them were pretty funny or cute, so we'll see how that works out. But they say that during the closed beta test there were some restrictions that were too restrictive, and they are going to make this easier. As they have already said, or we have already said, 31 heroes at start. We will talk about this later on. How will the free-to-play friendly economic system work? Stamina farming, offline farming, and overall. So they say they want to build a more free-to-play friendly economic structure than before, allowing players to who invest time into the game to experience meaningful progression even without spending. All right, that sounds pretty good. But the one thing is, as far as I recall, Vespa was really struggling to actually make players spend money, and that's where their whole problem started, that everyone was hoarding rubies and a lot of people could get by basically not spending, and then of course other factors influenced this, but the money flow just wasn't there for them. So we'll see. I mean, this sounds great and I'm all for it, but will the game be able to survive this way? That's something I would like to actually know. All right, all right. And so they say that there should be enough stamina that players can enjoy the game at a comfortable pace. I don't know, I mean, was stamina buying really that big of a thing? maybe it was for the people who farmed a lot, but a lot of the stuff wasn't about stamina. It was about like the unique weapons, the soul weapons, the unique treasures, and the stuff that wasn't really farmable with stamina. So yeah, I don't know. For many repeatable stamina-consuming activities, such as certain dungeons and raids, we are introducing limited entry counts and the skip system to reduce repetitive gameplay fatigue. At the same time, rewards are being adjusted so that players can still experience satisfying progression with a smaller time investment. Okay, so that's explained a bit more in their other patch notes later on, so we will get into that more detail there. All right, I personally don't mind having like reduced farming in the game because I don't really want to keep the game running for hours and hours again just to, farm dragon gear and stuff. So, um, yeah, again, we'll see how this turns out. But that's all they have shared in this section so far. So let's jump over to the other stuff in the closed beta test. Okay guys, so we have jumped over to the announcement section where, as you can see, they have announced the second closed beta test. The application period is already running. Sorry, I'm a bit late on this, but you still have until April the 3rd, so more than a week to apply. If you have already received an invite to the previous one, then they say you do not need to actually apply again. I'm curious how that works because I uninstalled the previous client because I needed that 30 plus gigs on my drive, and it's completely gone from my library, so I wonder how I'm gonna get that back on Steam. But I guess we will see when this drops on the 7th of April, and it will actually run until the 24th, so quite a long run. Yeah, unfortunately, most of this falls into the time when I'm going to Japan again, so I don't know how much content I will be able to create about this. Not much, but it's what it is, guys. Yeah. Anyway, they did give the link where you can apply for the closed beta test. I will put it into a comment or something, and then you guys can go and apply if you need. Now let's head over to the patch notes, which is here, and a bit of scrolling. Okay, so second closed beta test update. So the play scope, now this is the interesting part. So this is what we were gonna have at the beginning. So the main story goes up to chapter 6, which is, I think that was the original game too. We will get the stockade, we already had that. Soul weapon system, now that's an interesting thing. We get the soul weapon and chapter 6 at the same time. Okay, gonna be curious. Raids, Dragon Raid, World Boss, Guild Raid. Okay, Guild Raid already. Which World Boss, which Dragon, we do not know. Sorry, I just hit the mic there. We will find out when we get there. And then Challenge Raid, multi-season system planned. So this will be like similar to what we had. League of Honor. Again, why League of Honor and not the normal arena first? That's kind of curious. Maybe they just want to test the system. I mean, this is the closed beta test is a test, so I can understand. It's just like curious that it's not the normal arena, whatever. And Tower of Challenge, okay. A total of 31 heroes will be available during the second test. Of course, you start with the basic Castle Free, Cleo, Roy, Close, and then after clearing chapter 1, you can get Gao, Lakra, Kala, Dimel, Celine, Epis, Miruru, Refi, Lorraine, Demia, Maria, Reina, Nyla, Rodina, Mora, Jane. Okay, and then chapter 4, you will get Leo, Luna, Annette, Bodin, Priscilla, Arch, Sonia, Miriam, Laias, Kirze. Now, interesting, they have added like a lot of the cancer units that a lot of people did not like. I wonder why these need to be included and how the changes that they have talked about will actually affect these characters. Like Bodin, Arch, these characters were all about their immunity shield. So how is that gonna work? Now, they say that in the second CBT, most content requires entry resources in order to participate, and World Boss can be entered without any entry requirements. How does this work? Well, the stockade has like two 2 entries per day, and you can do the sweep tickets. I think this is the one where you can just skip the raid and then get the rewards instantly. Um, Dragon raid. Now this is the fun part. Entries per day 5. 5. How? So remember when we were talking about the stamina, and they said that they don't want you to spend that much stamina, and it should be like, but 5. Like, are are they removing all the RNG from the gear farming, or how? How are you gonna get enough gear if you can only farm Dragon Race 5 times a day? I mean, for burnout, this is really good, but how are we gonna get Dragon Raid? I really do not know, guys. Like, really? Really? I'm still processing this. I read this post like 3 times already, and I still can't wrap my head around how gear is gonna work if you can only do it 5 times a day. But um, I like to say let them cook, so let them cook. Challenge rate entries per day 10. Okay, I wonder, does this include like failed attempts? I think not. Usually failed attempts do not count, so they shouldn't. But who wants to do challenge rate 10 times a day? Whatever. World boss, no limitations. Guild raid, entry recruit consumes entry resource, entries per day 4. Again, guild raid is like weird. Why would I want to do guild raid 4 times a day? Well, whatever. Now, stamina acquisition and supply details. So they talk a bit about how much stamina you can have. Basically, they say that you will have about 3,000 stamina that you can get as a maximum, and then the special shop will be able to give you another 3,150. So this is like the total daily stamina supply that you can get with your natural recovery. That means that about half of it you can buy. But again, what will you spend all that stamina on? I still don't see the system, but whatever. The combat calculation system has been improved to address balance issues between the left and right formations, okay? And then they say that they are increasing physical damage, magic defense, mana recovery, and mana recovery. So both the attack and the MP per sec types. Yeah, I mean, this is a good thing because your heroes really did feel very paper-like in the new battle system, and mana was really slow. I was like dying, like please, and especially with the changed rune system from the original, it just you couldn't even slot in extra mana to your characters, and everyone felt so slow and waiting for skills, so that wasn't fun. I hope that now you can use your skills more often, because ultimately a game should be about using skills, right? They say the primary roles of some heroes have also been adjusted, including Cloudie, Frey, and Kala. Well, I don't know, are they all DPS now, or what do they mean? Alright, guys, so I think that's all they have given us for now. You should apply to the second closed beta test. You can try what they are gonna plan for the game with this update. A lot of people are upset about like the design and balance changes, so may or may not like or what's going on. Yeah, I don't know yet. I can't say I'm super happy with the changes. Some changes I still do not understand, so I actually have to see them in game. Like, how is this gonna work for gear with like the dragon raids and stuff like that. But yeah, basically we don't know enough yet. I don't want to be like all doom and gloomy and stuff like that, so I'm just gonna say let them cook for now, and we will see again in 2 weeks or so when the beta starts. Yeah, I think that's all for today. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comment section below. I try to reply whenever I can. And see you in the next one. Until then, this has been Cloudie. Bye bye.